Welcome back to The Watch, and we are up to Wheel of Time episode 5. Now, we are a bit more restricted on time because we're still travelling across Europe, though we're coming to the end of our trip, and we might not have time for a scene-by-scene breakdown, so we'll probably just talk about the episode generally for this episode coverage, the major kind of issues that we have, and anything that really stood out. I am joined, as always, by my lovely wife, the lady. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing good. Some, just, I guess, observations before we dive into it is I have not seen any interest in this show just on YouTube, on Twitter. It seems like it's almost non-existent apart from, I guess, diehard fans or people that are following it. Have you noticed anyone talk about this?
No, I've not seen anybody talk about it. And the only time I get ads is straight after watching it, and it's like the little cookies that pick up that I've watched it and go, oh, don't forget to watch the next one.
Yeah.
And that's about all I see.
Now, I have seen like advertisement and media and marketing for it when we went through London, funnily enough. But in terms of online chatter and enthusiasm, nothing. Not the zip. And so that gives me the impression that very, very few people are watching this show. And also just the interest in our reviews. Not as much interest as season 1. And I think a lot of people that tried season 1 saw how bad it was, have just checked out and they're not even caring. But we're not giving up the watch because we both love the Wheel of Time book series. And I think this horrible adaptation needs to be held to account. And that's what we're doing here. And so, overview, like a broad thoughts of the episode, my dear?
Well, it seems that they try to bring up things in the lore of the books and then stamp all over other parts of it.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. And so you go, oh, look, they're actually going to go, oh, no, never mind. Forget that.
Yep. Things actually happened in this episode, and it should have happened, like, things that are happening right now should have happened by episode 2,
yes,
really.
That's what I was thinking.
It's taken way too long, and they're failing on the execution in a lot of ways. One of the big takeaways for me in this whole episode is how awful Moraine is. Like, yeah, they were going for moral ambiguity, and she basically allowed people to die in the first season, the Mason, the guy on the bridge. And now she basically uses an innocent woman as bait, very likely going to be killed by a Forsaken for her own convenience. She is horrible, vile, and evil.
And that was after, slaughtering a horse for no good reason.
And when you say no good reason, for someone coming from the books, a nonsensical reason, because she's thinking, well, we can't allow the Forsaken following us. It's like, anyone familiar with the lore knows that Moraine knows that the Forsaken have other means of transportation, very magical and powerful means, and they're not addressing in the book. So I'm assuming it's called traveling, which is basically opening up portals, right? Is that non-existent now?
Well, Lanfear makes a comment of, oh, horses are so slow.
Yes.
So she could have used another method, but she chooses to use horses here. A horse. But I didn't even understand the killing of the horse in the first place, because you're like, we can't leave one for Lanfear. Well, I'm like, then take it with you. If you're going to be riding horses really fast, it's actually good to have an alternate mount.
Yes.
They do this all the time in the books. They're like, oh, we'll need one, and that way one can rest at a time and we'll just rotate through them. Yeah. But no, she's just like, we've got to kill this one so that she can't take it. What? And
it's like they're so desperate to make her seem edgy and willing to do difficult things and everything, and also morally ambiguous. And all the results is that she is an awful, vile, evil character that we don't like, and then the reasons and actions that she does are really silly and dumb. And then, like, with the whole Forsaken, can they use portals and everything, if they're trying to say that, no, they can't, which I bet they're going to contradict because it's such an important, big, pivotal power in the book series, that they will show Lanfear being able to do it. She kind of acknowledges, like you say, when she says horses are such an awful way to travel. And so Lanfear doesn't even need a horse, if you're familiar with the lore. This is really, really dumb. Par for the course for this TV show. And so one of the big issues with it is that I basically hate all the characters. I'm not invested, and therefore I don't care what's going on. And, okay, so then the next kind of observation I'm really having with this show is it seems like a more common trend in modern media today where all the heroes have to be morally ambiguous. They have to be grey, right? They can't be a pure-hearted hero. And you see this with the assassination of so many of the heroes of this book. And it really hit home that they're doing this when they even make men, in the last episode, making a deal with the Forsaken, okay? Dark friends make deals with the Forsaken. That's like the act of becoming a dark friend almost.
But not only that, they changed those that are supposed to be evil and horrible to having good reasons and be sympathetic in some way. And you're like, but they're the bad guy.
That's exactly the other side to us. They're making their heroes awful and the villains sympathetic. That's the whole thing that they've done with Liandrin. And they're doubling, tripling, doing that even more. That Liandrin, even after she delivers the girls to the Seanchan, she channels and frees their bind, but they're bound.
And unshields
them. Okay? And Liandrin was so evil she would never even think of doing that, and so this is, again, she's just misunderstood, guys. She's only made a deal with the most evil beings ever to save her child, her son, and Nynaeve just telepathically realizes that, just out of the blue. Like, these characters are just saying things because the writers are giving them information that they shouldn't logically be able to figure out or intuit. And then, in that scene, right, Liandrin, when she channels to release the girls, she's literally standing in front of a Suldam. They're like trained with the most sensitive awareness of any other woman channeling.
And what they're doing.
Exactly. And Liandrin literally does in front of a Suldam. A Suldam would have lightning bolted her straight away because that would have been a threat or something like that. They would have sensed Liandrin embracing the Source, even like a little bit, and that would have been such a huge, alert for them. And once again, it's small things like this, but it's the consistent stuff that just confirms once again and again and again that the people making this show, they have no idea of the source material, that what they're working with, and as proven by how much disrespect they show the books, and it just compounds and continues on and on and on. Any other kind of broad observations?
More specific ones in specific scenes.
Yeah.
Like, Perrin finally fights, but he doesn't get his axe yet. He's smacking people around with a hammer instead.
I mean, he came close to having an axe.
He could have grabbed the axe.
Yeah, the White Cloak had a really nice, but it was a double-headed axe. Perrin's one was famous for having a half-moon head and a spike on the other side. I was thinking, well, look, I could go with him even picking up a double-headed axe to finally give him his axe. But okay, maybe we'll just, even though we're not going through like the episode chronologically with the screen and everything, I have notes that kind of go chronologically that will follow through and kind of hit them all. And we might not be as specific or focused, but the more broader kind of things that stood out to me as we went through the episode. And so early on, Padan Fain appears, is just there for like a scene to give
Suroth.
No, because Suroth is the
Turok.
So Turok, is it Turok?
Yeah.
Yeah, the horn. And they show the case, and he just says the Horn of Valir, and you're looking at a case, you don't know what's in it. But for some is this chest a legendary artifact that people just recognize by the chest?
Apparently.
And so again, that's a weird thing. It's not in the books either. Okay, and so then we go back to Rand and Moraine running away from Lanfear, and I'm just compounded, because you see Lanfear lying in a pool of her own blood, and it compounds the question I have is why didn't you finish the job? She's lying there helpless. You have a sword, chop off her head, chop her into pieces. Rand, you literally use the power to turn a Myrddraal into a flaming pile of ash. Don't tell me, that'll barely stop. You had every opportunity to kill her and you ran away, and it was just so nonsense. And then the idea that she can just heal from death is so stupid.
Because one of the key things about wielding the power is that you can't heal yourself.
Yes. But she uses a different power to heal herself,
Yeah,
if you notice that. And
yes,
so
it was
maybe
the
that's...
black one.
But no, she was already dead. You can't... And so there have been only a couple of characters that actually came back from death, right? And it was a power of the Dark One, and it was a big deal. It wasn't any one individual can do it. It was literally the devil, the most evil entity, the evil entity of existence, right? Is able to weave dead people out of the pattern again, because they call he's the Master of Death, Lord of Death, or something like that, and it's a perverse thing against the laws of nature when he does it. And he did it with like one or two characters, and that's like, again, the most evil entity of all existence doing that, and it perverts the natural order. So don't tell me suddenly that we're gonna subvert the lore and story to just make Lanfear be able to come back from the dead because she's got powers. It's like, again, have they read the books? Do they understand the lore? Do they have any? And then it's going to be inconsistent now, because what is death? Like, I'm going to lose it. Like, if Lanfear just dies from someone stabbing her now or chopping off her head, it's like, well, why didn't she come back next time? Oh, when you chop off her head, she's probably dead. Well, then why didn't they chop off her head now? So the whole Lanfear death, very, very dumb. Moraine and Rand are running away, and that's when they run into the stables, and basically Moraine says... First, the lady says, you have to pay for the horses, and Moraine's like, no, we're not paying for them. In fact, if you don't help us, your life's in jeopardy. So she threatens her with death. Okay? So Moraine, you're a disgusting, evil person. And by the way, Moraine is always loaded with cash. Don't tell me she couldn't have purchased the horses.
Couple of coins and should be good.
Yes. But suddenly she doesn't have money when Moraine has always had money. She just visited her
come from a rich relative,
sister, right? Because they want her to be morally ambiguous, right? It's like, gosh, I hate this Moraine. She's vile and evil, and then she risks this poor woman's life. And when I say risk, like Lanfear just sews that woman's mouth shut, but literally before, Lanfear just blew off some guy's head for his horse, for the jollies, yeah. And so I think they avoided Lanfear killing this woman, because then they're probably thinking, well, that means Moraine really did throw this woman to her death. But that's a contradiction on Lanfear's character now, who was so happy and willing to just kill someone for the sake of it before, and now she's not doing it in this situation purely because it would come back on Moraine, and Moraine would be culpable for it. So Lanfear just does something mildly nasty to the woman. Inconsistent writing shows the type of people working on this.
Well, next we switch to Perrin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Elias is being unhelpful again. And so Perrin's of the whole opinion that we're going to go rescue my friends. They've been taken by these soldiers. We're going to go rescue them. And they rock up at the same village as before.
Because Elias was like...
Oh, I have no interest in them. They're not my pack.
Screw them and screw you.
Yeah.
So the reasoning for Elias is really dumb about that. And then why did Elias lead him back to the village specifically? Like, last time they knew it was overrun with Seanchan. Like, wouldn't Elias take him into the mountains so he could become part of the pack?
Yeah, it made no sense. He didn't explain why they were suddenly back here or what had to do with it. But Hopper shows Perrin the...
Well, yeah, he gets a vision of Uno in his corpse in a cage not being buried. And he's like, I got to bury my friend. And it's like, wow, they've finally given Perrin some backbone. Like, how long has it taken for him to show any real initiative, right? So Perrin needs to do that. And he arrives in the village, and he sees a caged Aiel. And so this is a scene that they're lifting from book 3?
I'm just pretty sure it was still book... Oh, actually,
no, it's book 3.
It was book 3.
It's book 3.
You're right.
And instead of Aviendha, it was Gaul. And so they're introducing Aviendha much earlier. Well, actually, Aviendha was introduced in book 3, but now this is essentially the plot line of book 2. And so Aviendha does appear earlier, and they've really what they're
They've just tried to make less characters and put Aviendha in sooner.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of understand that they did it to not have to do all the storyline.
I do. It's just the execution is just really, really flat. Well, the kind of lead up you could say it makes sense, but again, how Elias brought Perrin there, that's all dumb. Before, in book 3, Perrin is with Moraine and Lan, and they're trying to chase down Rand. So they're following Rand, and they arrive in a village where there's white cloaks, and there's a caged Aiel, and Perrin doesn't think any man should be caged, and so Perrin does end up breaking him out and having a fight with the white cloaks.
Yes.
So that kind of does play out. Well, when I say play out, it's not the same, because he runs into Bornhold?
Dane Bornhold.
Dane Bornhold. And look, I didn't mind that interaction and meeting there. Did you notice that they changed what the white cloaks are wearing now?
Well, they've mixed it up a little bit.
Yes, mixed it up a bit. Okay,
because the questioners are the main ones we've seen up until now.
Yes. So then Perrin, as he frees now Aviendha, they get surrounded by white cloaks. Not just a couple, by 15? How many did you think there was there?
I thought it was, about a dozen.
Like heaps of white cloaks. And it's like 2 of them against heaps of white cloaks. And this is where it just gets nonsense to me, because I know Aiel are good fighters.
So it at least started off with him standing in front of Aviendha and trying to protect her. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, a little bit of backbone.
Yeah.
And she just kind of laughs and says, I got this.
Yeah, I got this. Do you dance well? And so Aviendha is a Marvel tier Captain America level superhuman. She basically, like, Perrin probably takes out, what, 2, you think, in the fight?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
2.
But you can't really tell because all the camera work is on Aviendha.
Aviendha.
He's like in the background doing stuff.
Yes, this whole scene is for Aviendha, who is a side character, and the main character, Perrin, is a side consideration who barely gets anything in the fight scene, and then Aviendha kicks insane butt like a superhuman. She breaks someone's neck with the inside of her leg, right? It is the type of fighting that you could only reasonably accept if the person had superhuman powers. Aviendha is fighting armed soldiers, completely unarmed, like just hands, and like I said, yeah, the Aiel are good fighters, but this is bullcrap. This is a type of combat that Lan, the greatest swordsman in the entire book series, would have not been able to succeed. Isn't it
So
New Spring?
in book 3, when Gaul actually gets captured, there were 2 of them, and they had accidentally stumbled across wetlanders, a bunch of men. And there were, maybe 10 of them or something. And they killed one and took the other one. That was 2 men.
2 men, and
it took about 10 men to kill one and capture one.
And that means the Aiel were defeated. Was it Gaul?
Yes, Gaul.
Defeated in those numbers. In New Spring, Lan, again, one of those greatest swordsmen in the world in this book series, he barely defeats 5 swordsmen. And he thought he was going to lose in that fight. And so the power scaling, wouldn't you know it, is consistent in the books about people's skill, what they can handle, everything like this. The show, thrown out the window. Aviendha is an insane superhuman, and Perrin barely gets any acknowledgement in the fight, where the fight with Gaul in the books, Perrin, it played out and was depicted that Perrin was an equal combatant, basically, in that fight. He had his axe, he goes wolf berserker, and he messes some white cloaks up.
And Gaul's like, you dance well.
Yeah. And so that line, you dance the well, or dance the spear as well, rings far more true compared to when Aviendha sits down and she says, you dance the spear as well, in this episode. It's like, he barely did anything. He just basically, it was a splitting axe with a really wide head, more like a hammer, really. And he basically hits 2 white cloaks and growls a bit.
And his eyes change colour.
And his eyes change colour. I mean, it was stupid. It was silly, and it made Perrin look like a complete nothing in the episode. But Aviendha ends up defeat, because she's the hero here. Okay, you need to remember Aviendha's the hero, the badass one, and it's the same thing. Like this show, if there's ever an opportunity, or not even an opportunity, because usually the book could show men and women both succeeding and being really cool and awesome, right? In the show, I don't know, if there's a male and female in the scene, well, who's going to be given the attention and the heroic moments and stuff? we saw it all through season 1. This show actually has a bias against the male characters. Okay, it's actually sexist in its depiction of both sides here, with really inflating one side and making the other side complete. And I thought if this was to be, as the showrunner said, has the feminist narrative, isn't that supposed to be equality? But it's not about equality.
So the next interesting thing that kind of happens is you see Varen arrive at the tower. Because she had previously been in that little home place where Moraine had been, and she interacts with a couple of brown sisters. So, in this, it's probably one of the main interactions you get of brown sisters, because even in the books, they don't usually interact with each other. They're in their own little worlds, doing their books and things. And she basically trying to get information about Nynaeve and Egwene.
So the scenes with Varen, I like that at least they showed someone being intelligent and noticing things aren't adding up. But the problem is, this isn't Varen. Like, Varen is very perceptive, but she hides it, and she makes it look like she's constantly airheaded and things. In this Varen is always showing that she's aware and socially keyed in communicating with people, and it's just like most of the characters, basically all of them. This isn't Varen. This is just a new character with the
she's
name.
in a scene with Shiriam, right?
So it looks like Shiriam had compulsion used on her to allow.
Because at first I was like, oh, she just lied.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on?
Are they making Shiriam, Black Aja? But no, it looks like she was just under compulsion. And so, Aes Sedai, they can speak untruth if they think they're speaking the truth. They think they're right.
Yes, and so compulsion can make them think a thing has happened when it hasn't, and put thoughts and memories in their heads and make them do things.
Yeah.
And so, once that came up, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a little bit less bad, but still a bit weird, but okay, we'll go with that.
So there were a couple of small little odd things that I noticed. For one, the lady that has the horses that is trying to, Moraine set up to be bait, there's an establishing shot when just before Lanfear meets her, and it's overlooking Tar Valon.
Yes, she'd already almost reached Tar Valon.
Which means she travelled from Cairhien to Tar Valon in a night.
Less than a night, it was still dark.
Exactly, so that's like, what, maybe 6 hours?
Yeah.
At most?
Yeah.
It's basically teleportation. Like, the books were very, very mindful about how long it takes to get from point A to point B, and I was consistent with it. This is like, Cairhien to Tar Valon, bang, one night. And I know Cairhien is a little closer to Tar Valon, isn't it, like further up, just above it on the river? But still, 6 hours.
Yeah,
right? No. The next thing that I noticed is like Moraine arrives in a city with Rand, and I didn't know where they were, because when I was looking at the buildings, it's like, it has medieval European buildings with like half-timbered homes and things. It's like, and the set didn't look bad. I was like, okay, they're at a new location. And then we find out, no, that's Cairhien. I'm like, hang on, they had an establishing shot showing Cairhien's towers and everything like that, looking distinctly Asian in architecture. Like, completely different. We saw the foregate, which was just a ramshackled mess.
Which was what it was supposed to be.
But when we saw the buildings behind the big wall and the towers, it was Asian looking. And then when they're walking through now, it's European looking. To the point where I thought they didn't even return to Cairhien. I'm like... And the outfits that the Cairhenians are wearing still have an Asian cut to them. You really see that in Moraine's dress in the last episode. But now they have European build, and so...
So they have a weird mix, the costuming I've noticed for Cairhien.
Yeah.
It's like the lower garments have like a dress part that is kind of a little bit more European.
I'm laughing because you would notice the dresses, yes.
And so without their flowing jackets, it's actually a lot more European. But as soon as they put their jackets on, they're a lot more Asian. So it's a weird mix, but still a lot of cool colours, blues are primarily in there. But it does have a mix depending on what layers are prevalent at the time.
I mean, where are there slashes of colour and their house... Like, so Cairhenians... are very, very kind of, they have a noble structure with heaps of different houses and families and stuff, and they all have a type of livery, which is patterns of colours, sometimes cross-hatch, sometimes slashes, sometimes a whole mix, might be diamonds in a line, and that's actually similar to European livery in the backgrounds behind the devices on coat of arms and things. And so the Kyrians are always depicted, and the higher up you are, the more slashes of those colours that you add. That's not existent here. It was like, if you really wanted to pick Kyrian, you'd pick that. And in my mind, they're always described as having more European cuts of dresses, like you would have maybe a doublet, which is a really formal, fancy kind of thing, but the doublet would have all those slashes of colours, depending on your house. And the women had
men
really
would often be in their
dresses.
sleeves, and the women's would be in their dresses.
Yeah, and same with the colours. That's not existent, all right? And they're kind of doing a blend of Asian and European in the outfits, but this establishing shot of the upper class part of Kyrian, the buildings, everything, it's all European, and so it's inconsistent for me. And I thought they were a completely different place when they arrived. Small things, just kind of showing inconsistencies in the show. So the girls try to escape, and this was both dumb, poorly executed, and so they basically can Suldam not aim? They're not even far, and so they shoot lightning bolts. And the Suldam don't want to kill him, so why are they using lightning bolts? And then they're shooting lightning bolts, and they're always missing. And it's like, hang on, you can be really accurate with this type of magic? Why are you? And so they could have just wrapped the girls in air, done. They were easily close enough.
But this is kind of in the books as well. There was a lot of back and forth between the girls and the Suldam.
So there was more confusion to get people mixed up, because they were closer to, bushes and everything. There wasn't this big opening, and someone hit someone, and they race into the bushes, and then the Suldam try and follow, but they can barely see where the girls are. And then Nynaeve starts lobbing lightning bolts back, because Nynaeve has ability to learn weaves really quickly. And when she sees...
so they started it, and so they just ended up this big lightning battle, because she learns everything that they throw at her.
Exactly, and she becomes way too difficult to try and pursue, because she starts killing a lot of Seanchan soldiers and stuff, and the Seanchan basically have to say, look, we have to stop pursuing, right? In this, Nynaeve can't even channel, and this is frustrating because they've established something with Nynaeve. Her block is not just anger, it's anger and fear now. And they did it because she was channeling in season 1 at times where she clearly was not angry, all right? Now they have a setting where she is clearly afraid and she says she can't channel. Bullcrap, right? And so now it's arbitrary nonsense that Nynaeve can't channel because the plot needs her not able to channel, and she can when the plot needs her to channel. Like, you woke up, you're bound, you've just been attacked, you see, you're telling me you're not afraid? Come off it. And then, you know what would make you really afraid? When you try and channel, and you realize you can't channel, and then you're more vulnerable, and there's people there, suddenly you're afraid, and then it would be a self-fulfilling thing. Nynaeve basically should be able to channel whenever she wants now, based on what they have established in the show. And so when she says she can't channel...
So when did she say she can't channel? I'm just trying to figure this one out.
Egwene wakes up, and she says, do something, and Nynaeve says, I can't, and I think she even says she can't channel in that moment.
Well, when they first wake up, aren't they still... shielded?
No, this is after they've been released.
Oh, I must have missed that.
No, this was after they've been released. And what's really frustrating about this is that the scene in the book, Nynaeve is channeling and she's lobbing lightning bolts back, which is the very reason why they're able to escape, right? Now, they tie up Egwene, Nynaeve can't channel, Elaine barely is able to do a couple little, fireball things, right? And so the Seanchan just basically don't pursue when Nynaeve and Egwene are easily vulnerable. It's like, why did you stop? They're right there. Just keep going. And then they just stop. So the execution of this scene is just such dog crap compared to the blueprint they had in the books. And they didn't need to do it that way. I mean, come on. And so that happens.
All right, so we've also got Moraine warning Rand against sleeping.
Okay, yes.
Because Lanfear is known for her control in dreams. Which, she was, and that's Lanfear's thing. She claimed ownership of dreams and was quite powerful in knowing how to use them.
But Moraine, well, in the books, they didn't know nearly as much as Telai Unriod.
No.
And that was more a mystery. But also Moraine, she did know enough to ward her dreams, but then she doesn't have the power.
Yeah, and because them being near her she could also help ward their dreams a bit. But now that she doesn't have the power, that's gone out the window. So now she's trying to keep him awake, but only for like half the episode.
Yeah, and then she basically realizes, well, Lanfear could have killed you, so she wants you for something, so let's try and figure out what that is and go to sleep anyway and give the Forsaken exactly what they want.
Basically, and she doesn't tell him what to do, what the purpose is. She's like, just go to sleep. She probably doesn't want to kill you. It's fine. And leaves him to go into the dream. And I'm like, what? It made no sense to me.
Well, they've tied themselves into, put themselves in a corner here because Moraine can't channel. I was wondering, because again, there's still the question of, is Moraine actually stilled or not? Because it could be that she is shielded by a male channeler, so she can't see the shield. And wasn't she masking the bond with Lan already at the end of season 1? And so they could assume the bond, the water bond is broken because her being shielded means she can't manipulate the bond anymore, and so therefore the bond would feel like it's not even there. And
but she would still be able to feel the power and not touch it. That's the whole thing with shielding.
That is true. That is.
And she's been talking about that loss of not being able to feel it. And so by what she said, it's the description of
being stilled. You're right. But the writers are inconsistent and they don't understand the lore or the books, and so it's probably more incompetence. Because if it's shielding, right, Rand would be able to see the shield if it's from a male channeler. Yes. And I was wondering if they would actually do something consistent with the books, and Rand actually acknowledged, you got like a glowy thing around you. But perhaps Moraine is just still, you're right, Moraine would be able to sense it. And so if we were to go off all the information in context, Moraine is stilled by what they have established in the show, but they might contradict that because they're incompetent. Okay, and that's the corner that they've set themselves in, because now Moraine can't ward Rand's dreams. Rand does eventually learn how to ward it himself, and so they could have made him, he's just arbitrarily learning magic anyway, and so he can just bullcrap that. Or they could have found another Aes Sedai and Kyrian to help him out. There's easily a number of reasons to, instead of just say, yeah, go to sleep and good luck, you might die, but we'll see what happens.
It was so bizarre. But we also see Lanfear in a dream with Beelzemon and them kind of interacting a bit. But the main thing that bugged me in that scene was a comment by Beelzemon that Matt was born mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck? Leave Matt alone. You've butchered him enough.
Yeah, but no, they're still
hanging on to that, aren't they?
I can't stand it. This show just continues to be a desecration of a wonderful book series, and the execution continues to be very incompetent and inconsistent, where if you were to even not know the books, and we got to talk with Gary last episode, who doesn't know the books, it's just a boring, inconsistent show with characters that you hate because most of them are awful. And so it's a dog crap show.
So basically you just decide who you hate the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're about to do a bit more with this Seanchan.
Yep.
And, they've got Egwene collared now, which they did actually show a collar.
It was a collar that actually just folds out into
a shoulder pad thing.
Yeah, shoulder pad stuff.
And so they're going to show a bit more of them, which probably make you hate them more as we go, in theory. But you know how they love to not make you hate try to make you not hate the bad guys.
Yep.
Who knows what they'll do with that. And so we've kind of got... and Nynaeve and Elaine got knocked out and collected by a yellow Arja Aes Sedai and her warder, so to keep them safe. Mm-hmm. So they're with them. Egwene's captured. Rand is going to go meet a Forsaken in his dreams.
Yep.
Perrin's got Aviendha following him around like a little puppy now.
And he is headed towards Falmer, and so they're building towards that, final conflict at Falmer.
And Matt and Minna missing, headed to presumably Kyrian, if she's obeying the instructions of the Forsaken from the last episode.
Yeah. Or they'll just appear in Falmer because they need to be there.
Yeah.
Stuff
happened. It was weird.
And the show continues to be bad. That's the summary. Thank you for continuing to join us throughout our suffering here as we stay on watch on the Wheel of Time, and we will continue. So until next time, stay on watch.